Small business needs support from politics as its productivity is lower compared to countries in the region, with the EBRD report noting that property problems, corruption and poor infrastructure damage the climate of doing business in Albania. According to the IQC, Judge Trezhnjeva is not able to justify his net worth of over 20 million, has made false declarations and has no legitimate financial resources. The Minister of Finance visited Kukës today to confirm that the government is in discussions with the tendered road construction company to provide tariff concessions to residents for the national highway. Good evening, it's 6 o'clock on Wednesday, the 11th of April 2018. Welcome to the English edition of Aura News. My name is Alexandra and I'm here to bring you the day's top stories from across the country translated into English. As the opposition steps up its rhetoric against the decision to include small businesses in the VAT scheme, a strong signal of support has come from the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. During the presentation of the 2017-2018 transition report, the EBRD asked for more to be done for small business, especially given that they account for 90% of all businesses, making their need for empowerment even more economically necessary. Property problems, corruption, non-implementation of contracts and poor infrastructure all damage the climate of doing business in Albania. Albania is the last in the region for business productivity. Small businesses are especially problematic as their innovative capacity is very low because they are more like family businesses, advised the EBRD. Even the governor of the Bank of Albania, Gent Seiko, raised the concern of the lack of intervention to increase productivity of small businesses. Inflation is returning to targeted levels and the economic growth is backed by some major infrastructure investments. The main concern for small businesses is unfair competition, explained Gent Seiko. But will the Western Balkans ever meet the standards of EU countries? Here's what the EBRD has to say on the matter. According to the most optimistic forecasts, the Western Balkan countries will need a further 40 years to achieve the living standards of EU countries. The most likely baseline scenario suggests that it will take 60 years. Considering the most pessimistic of scenarios, the region would need a full 200 years to achieve such standards. The EBRD report urges regional countries to deliver on EU-orientated reforms, especially those to improve the business climate, and provides the reforms in the energy sector as a model. According to the EBRD forecast, Albania's economic growth for this year is expected to reach 3.7%. A judge of Durrës's Court of Appeal and one of the candidates for the High Judicial Council, Besim Trezhnjeva, was the third judge after Fatos Lulo and Victoria Tusha to be summoned for a hearing before the Independent Qualification Commission. The latest trial panel consisted of Ahmetaj, Fildes Shuli and Roland Elia. The defending judge did appear in person with his chosen lawyer, Fatmir Braka, by his side. At the beginning of the session, Ahmetaj informed that in regards to the case of this judge, the Commission limited its jurisdiction only to the assessment of wealth, considering it sufficient for the re-evaluation process. Then, the case relator, Fildes Shuli, presented in detail the entire wealth investigation conducted against the judge by the IQC, which, according to her, has come to the conclusion that Trezhnjeva has committed a false declaration of wealth, failed to declare all sources of income, and is unable to legitimately prove his financial resources. According to the Commission, the value of the wealth that is not justified by the judge is over 20 million lek. But these conclusions have been rejected by the judge and his lawyer, who demanded the appointment of an independent expert to conduct a wealth analysis again, a request that was rejected by the trial panel. According to the IQC, the judge's wealth consisted of 5 apartments in Tirana and Durrës, 1,920 square metres of land at Baldushk of Tirana, and a vehicle purchased in 2014 worth €16,000. It also resulted that he had taken a €50,000 loan from a second-tier bank. The next session will be held on April 13, when the Commission is expected to give its decision. For the first time since the protest on the National Highway took place, which resulted in the burning down of the toll booths, Finance Minister Ahmetaj has gone to Kukës to discuss with businesses the taxes that have caused such a big reaction. The media was not allowed to be present at the meeting, but according to him, Minister Ahmetaj emphasised the government's commitment to negotiate appropriate concessions for residents of the Kukës region with the tendered road construction company. The government is negotiating a mitigating package for residents of the Kukës region regarding the road tariff, said Ahmetaj. He went on to clarify for the entrepreneurs of the Kukës region their involvement in the new VAT structure, particularly for those 64 businesses that were not previously required to declare under the scheme. There is no new tax. It is only an obligation to declare revenue. We are providing intensive information on the inclusion of these businesses in the declaration scheme, said Ahmetaj. The minister said he also discussed upcoming projects for the region with entrepreneurs and citizens, such as the Kukës airport and the new football stadium in Kukës city. However, as he was speaking, one audience member interjected to declare to the minister that the people in the area do not have any food to eat. This is the first direct government meeting with residents following the protest of residents of Kukës, which developed against the national highway tariff. Although some days ago, Prime Minister Rama did hold a video conference with some local businessmen and district councillors. The Democratic Mayor of Shkodra, Zoltana Ademi, has calmly waited for the criminal proceeding for participating in blocking the Milot Road on April 5 under the framework of the national opposition protest. In her first reaction, the locally elected leader says that this will not stop her from joining protests in the future, as there are so many more reasons to get involved. To protest is a citizen's right, and I am a citizen like all other citizens. I'm there first as Zoltana Ademi, but also as a representative of all citizens of Shkodra. When I think it's right to protest for something that is unfair, to protest for the truth, well, I think it's the least I can do, said Zoltana Ademi. For Ademi, the proceedings were a failed attempt to close the opposition's mouth, which they must refuse, as the time of dictatorships in our country has passed. Communism's time has ended, even though their children continue to be in charge of the state. I have no fear. I will continue to protest because it is a legitimate right, added Zoltana Ademi. The mayor of Shkodra was among 57 prosecuted by the state police for blocking 4 national road axes, alongside Democratic Party chairman Lulzim Basha, SMI chair Monica Kruemavi, as well as other MPs and participants. At the 100th anniversary of the oil industry, Minister of Infrastructure and Energy stated from Kuchova that oilmen status is being seen as a priority, especially given the situation with Balch employees, which he described as a social emergency. This process is continuing. I know that there have been many delays as the requests are numerous, but there are over 900 requests currently in progress. We started at the Balch refinery because they are in extreme conditions and at a venue that has been in difficulty and near closure. They deserve proper treatment, and for this, I want everyone to understand that we are determined to continue with this process for everyone, said Damian Gignori. Present at this event, the Italian ambassador, Alberto Cutillo, said that the history of oil in Albania is another of the many chapters that link the two countries together. The relationship is just as intense today as it was many years ago. The first primitive technological developments were wheel mechanisms, but despite technological progress, the oil sector remains important today, just as it was a century ago. The gas sector has also now entered Albania with the arrival of the TAP, which opens a new page in development and cooperation between Italy and Albania, added Alberto Cutillo. The first oil exploration well in Albania started drilling exactly 100 years ago in Trezhnjeva of Vlora, designed by the Italian geologist Leo Maddalena and oil engineer Amoretti, on the basis of the geological studies they had conducted in 1917. Kuchova was chosen to mark this anniversary as it represents the industrial city that has lived and lives by oil since the time when Italian companies began conducting search operations. Another green area has been added to the capital. The southern area of the artificial lake of Tirana, which was once a waste collection site, has now been fully planted with trees and greened up completely as a complementary addition to the Grand Park. Today, the first financial development company in Albania, the FAF, donated 100 new trees, with the mayor Erion Veliaj present himself during the planting process. We are finishing the southern half of Tirana Lake. We've cleared it from all that which has disrupted the development of this area. For all citizens who pass this new investment, although it is still a construction site, it is both undeniable and unbelievable how big the lake is. In my opinion, it is the obligation of our generation to leave things to the next generation in the best possible condition, said Erion Veliaj. But in the meantime, the municipality of Tirana is also working on the construction of another park, that at Farka Lake, where there are currently 2 major projects operating involving both planting trees and adding infrastructure. With the trees that the FAF has donated today, we continue planting, starting from the dam to the other extreme of the lake. I believe this will be the first summer where citizens will enjoy the Lake of Tirana in its entirety. Meanwhile, we are preparing the second park, that of Foka Lake, explained the Mayor. Viliai once again appealed to citizens to use the time left to plant their tree and to contribute for the greening up of the capital until April 22nd on Earth Day. And that's the news across the country today. Thank you for watching our English edition this evening, and be sure to join me again every Monday to Saturday at 6 p.m. for the latest news from Albania. Once again, on behalf of Aura News, thank you and good night.